Senate will come to order. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all those in attendance will stand and be led in prayer by the chaplain Terry L. Haddock, Norfolk Police Department, Norfolk Sheriff's Office in Norfolk, Virginia. Everyone will please remain standing and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America by Madam Clerk Susan Clark Shar.
If you could join me in prayer. Almighty God, I give you thanks for today. We pause together in your presence to ask for guidance and wisdom for the men and women here in the Senate chamber. As they make decisions that are far-reaching, give each one here discernment and compassion. Help them realize that their decisions are wider and broader than we can measure. Guide and direct the counsel of this honorable assembly. Your word says you are the light of the world, and a city on a hill cannot be hidden. May your wisdom and your power be with everyone here today that has been entrusted with the leadership positions to lead and to serve all the people. Your word says, cast all our cares and our petitions upon you, O Lord, and I humbly ask this in your mighty, powerful, loving, holy name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk will call the roll. All those in attendance will please record their vote aye. Clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Friday, January 10th, 2020.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of waiving the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 36, noes 3.
Ayes 36, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. Clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates. The senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw. Thank the senator. The question is, shall the reading of the communication from the House of Delegates be waived? All in favor of waiving the reading will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 37, noes 2.
Ayes 37, noes 2. The reading of the communication from the House of Delegates is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
We do not have any, sir.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now comes a time in the morning hour where we have the privilege and pleasure of recognizing our guests with us here in the Senate gallery. I will give my daily reminder that the way this will proceed is that a senator will stand up and recognize an individual or group. I will then offer the warm welcome of the Senate, and then at the very end, we will all clap together. I'd like to begin by calling on the senator from Northern Chesapeake, Senator Spruill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members Senate, the prayer this morning was given by Chaplain Terry Haddock. She is the senior chaplain at the Norfolk Police Department. She's also served as chaplain for the Norfolk Sheriff's Department and the office of the Norfolk Fire Department. She was very instrumental and helpful this year, the tragedy that we had in Virginia Beach. She was very helpful for that. We want to thank her for that. Chaplain Haddock grew up in a Navy family and is married to Ralph Haddock, and they have one daughter and 3 grandchildren, and she resides in Norfolk. She is also accompanied by Mr. Rick James and Mrs. Raven Campbell. Mr. President, will you please welcome them?
I thank the senator. Would Chaplain Haddock and your guests please rise in the gallery if you're able? Chaplain, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for that very beautiful prayer. It's wonderful to see you again, and appreciate your tremendous leadership in Norfolk and in Hampton Roads. And Rick, thank you as well. It's so wonderful to see both of you, and you're welcome here anytime in the Senate. I would ask everybody to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our three distinguished guests.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senior Senator.
While we still have the chaplain here, I just would like to know, everybody, I hope, is aware that the Norfolk Police Department won the National Lip Sync Contest nationwide, right? I was just trying to make sure that the chaplain actually didn't lip sync your prayer. It was you? Okay, thank you.
That was great. Thank the Senator. Senator from Hampton, Senator Locke.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thanks, Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Visiting today are several members who are part of a global group of student volunteers called ASEZ. ASEZ stands for Save the Earth from A to Z. The student volunteers of ASEZ are university students from the World Mission Society Church of God. These student groups are actually visiting from South Korea. If you would please extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our visiting friends from ASEZ please rise to the gallery if you're able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today in the Senate of Virginia. We are grateful to have you, and thank you for traveling across the world to be with us here in the capital of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We appreciate every single one of you. Hope that you will learn a lot and enjoy yourselves in the Capitol. You're welcome as our guest, and we appreciate all the work that you're doing to help save the planet, and we support you in the work that you're doing. So I would ask everybody please to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our distinguished guests. Senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President.
Morning, Senator. How are you?
I'm great. I rise for purposes of an introduction.
Thank you, Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to direct the members' attention in the gallery to some very special guests who are visiting me here from Fauquier County. They are representing three different organizations, and the people here include Chris and Debbie Cloud, Elizabeth Plaskett, Christina Harold, Anna Russo, Jenna Calcaterra, Waldo Ward, and Laird Taylor, and I'll tell you about the organizations that they represent. The first is the Family Alliance Network, which was recently established in 2017, and they're dedicated to promoting early detection and intervention for current rising cultural concerns, preventing family crises that cause at-risk youth, and developing strong, empowered families within the community through advocacy, education, research, and service. They also represent Virginia Women's Voters Coalition, which is a newly established organization here in Virginia. The members are women determined to remove the rhetoric in politics, provide clear understanding of the current issues, and identify the positions of those running for office so that women can vote their values and be represented in the legislature. And finally, they are here from the American Life and Liberty Coalition, a group that has recently evolved out of active people in Fauquier County. They meet weekly as a roundtable outreach and action coalition with the goal to ensure the integrity of the American Constitution by engaging citizens and the legislature regarding the rights, values, and freedoms of all Americans, regardless of partisanship. So you can tell they're very busy. And I'm incredibly grateful that they were willing to come and brave the crowds and be here with us today in the gallery. And I would ask that you please extend to them the very warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the Family Alliance Network, the Virginia Women's Voter Coalition, and the American Life and Liberty Coalition please rise in the gallery if you are able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We are grateful for your participation in the civic process. It's so important to have thoughtful citizens engaged to make our process and our democracy work much better. And we echo the eloquent words of the Senator from Fauquier, of whom I know you're very proud, and she continues her tremendous work here in the Senate. And so we appreciate you. You, of course, are welcome back here anytime to your Capitol. And I would ask everybody to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our three distinguished guests. Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
I wanted to ask that you welcome the Virginia chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, or NORML. They're joined today by their Executive Director, Jen Michelle Pedini, and they're here in support of specific legislation this year that we hope to finally make a reality. One is to decriminalize marijuana. A second is to establish a joint subcommittee to study the development of a framework for the adult use of cannabis, and finally, Senator Marsden's bill that is too complicated to explain on the floor. But on a more serious note, they've been working hard for this for a number of years. I think this may be the year that we're able to advance their cause, and I ask that you please extend the warm welcome of the Senate to Virginia NORML.
Thank the Senator. Would our friends from Virginia NORML please rise in the gallery if you are able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for taking the time to be engaged and involved in the process. It's, as the Senator from Alexandria eloquently said, it's a very important time to have this discussion and this debate, and we appreciate all the many hours and days and months that you've put into your advocacy. And so I look forward to seeing you here around the Capitol. We appreciate your work as Virginians to make us all better. And I would ask everybody, please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our friends from Virginia NORML. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D-Stev.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Today we are joined by students from Bena High School for girls from the Tidewater area. The Bena experience, and Bena meaning understanding, encourages their students to develop their love for Hashem, his Torah, and the Jewish people. In partnership with the parents, Bena enables each student to actualize her potential in a supportive and challenging academic environment. A Bena student is taught to be proud of her heritage, involved in her community, and prepared for her future. Mr. President, please offer our guests the warmest welcome of the Senate.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the Bena Girls High School please rise in the gallery if you are able? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. We are grateful that you took the time to visit your capital and echo the eloquent words of the senior senator from Virginia Beach. We appreciate the character and the values that your school and each one of you represents. Understanding is something that's very, very important. No time more important than today. And so we're grateful to you for bringing that light into the political darkness. And so we are appreciative of you. You come back here anytime. And I would ask everybody to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our leaders from the Bena Girls High School. This is the first time I get to say this. To the junior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Hashmi.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, Senator.
I rise for the purpose of introduction.
Good morning, Senator. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm so happy to introduce to the Senate the Liberal Women of Chesterfield County. This group of women are strong advocates and organizers for the purpose of promoting the cause of civic engagement and advocacy on issues that are so critical to so many of our communities and our families. LWCC strives to be a safe haven for liberal women and their allies in order to support, educate, and encourage one another to be actively involved in our government. I ask, Mr. President, that you offer the warmest welcome of the Senate to our LWCC guests.
I thank the Senator. Would our friends from the Liberal Women of Chesterfield County please rise in the gallery if you are able? The other side? Okay. Well, you can see us on TV. Thank you all so much for being here at the Capitol today. We echo the eloquent words of the junior senator from Chesterfield. Appreciate your engagement in our process in making the Commonwealth a better place. So for them to see on TV, could we all offer the warmest welcome of the Senate to the Liberal Women of Chesterfield County? And the senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise for the purposes of introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, even though the pages are not with us today, we do have the page parent of our Page Jackson Mallory, that's Kevin Mallory, and I guess their relative, Mr. Mallory's uncle, but Kevin's, I guess, brother or brother-in-law with us in the gallery. If you could offer them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Thank the Senator. Would Kevin Mallory and Bill Bailey please rise in the gallery if you are able? Kevin and Bill, thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for lending your wonderful page here to the Senate. We are very grateful to you and for that leadership. And, of course, you're welcome back here anytime as part of the Senate family. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our two distinguished guests. The senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Thank the Senator. You have the floor.
In the gallery today, Mr. President, we have a supporter and good friend, Justin Inger, and his mother, Mary Jo, who are here from Chesterfield. If you could please extend the warm welcome of the Senate to them today. Thank you.
I thank the Senator. Would Mary Jo and Justin please rise in the gallery if you're able? Mary Jo and Justin, thank you all so much for joining us here today. We are grateful that you took the time to be with us in the Senate. And, of course, you're welcome back here anytime. We would echo the generous words of the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warmest welcome of the Senate to our two friends, Mary Jo and Justin. The senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good morning, Senator.
Can we have the general reflect leave of absence for my seatmate from Franklin? He is on pressing personal business.
Thank the Senator. The journal will so reflect. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of an introduction? Seeing none, resolutions, petitions, and bills are now in order. The clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Monday, January 13th, 2020. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on second reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar, that's pages 1 and 2, Senate Bill 4 through Senate Bill 275, be advanced to their engrossment and third reading in a block after the adoption, of any amendments thereto. Any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 1 through 2, Senate Bill 44 through Senate Bill 275, be engrossed in advance to their third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments thereto, and that any senator desiring a bill be removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Senate Bill 44, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 112, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 186, reported from the Committee on Education and Health. Senate Bill 275, reported from the Committee on Education and Health with a substitute.
Senator from Southern Fairfax County, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that for Senate Bill 275, the substitute be adopted.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the substitute be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The substitute is adopted.
Mr. President.
Oh, sorry. Senator from Enrico.
Could you pull Senate Bill 186 from the block, please?
Without objection, Senate Bill 186 is removed from the block. The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to the third reading? That is all bills except for Senate Bill 186. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading. Senator from Henrico, Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I just ask that bill go by for the day?
Without objection, Senate Bill 186 will go by for the day.
Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 238, a bill relating to public schools kindergarten instructional time, reported from the Committee on Education and Health.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
President, I move that Senate Bill 238 be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 239, a bill relating to assistance administration of fluoride varnish. Reported from the Committee on Education and Health with amendments.
Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I move that the amendments for Senate Bill 239 be adopted.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the amendments be adopted? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendments are adopted. Senator from Southern Fairfax, Senator Barker.
Mr. President, I now move that the bill as amended be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I move that all Senate bills on first reading on the uncontested and regular calendar, pages 3 through 5, and that's Senate Bill 181 through Senate Bill 495, that the rules be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
Thank the Senator. Question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 3 through 5, Senate Bill 181 through Senate Bill 495, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, no 0.
Ayes 39, no 0. The rules are suspended. The first reading is dispensed with. Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
Mr. President, I now move that all said bills be passed by for the day.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall said bills be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day.
Regular calendar, Senate Joint Resolution on first reading. Senate Joint Resolution 1, ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment to the Constitution of the United States.
Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw.
I've got to move that to
Complete the count.
Yes.
Mr. President, I'd inquire the clerk, does that now complete the calendar for today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Senator. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, because that completes the calendar, is this the point in time for personal privilege?
It is indeed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
I have some observations that I would like to share, and probably few in here will embrace them with any great affection. And they do not address any particular piece of legislation. Rather, they address the procedures and the protocol of the Senate, which I think is worthy of commenting on very briefly. First of all, on committees and subcommittees, generally we have relied upon a sign-up system and that they are taken in some order of what they sign up. I appreciate that there are 40 senators and 40 senators have time constraints. With the view of time constraints, I do recall observing in a committee recently where there were considerations of time constraints, and 1 hour and 11 witnesses were presented on a bill in spite of not having signed up first. And I would just say, as a matter of courtesy in the absence of unusual circumstances, that perhaps that should be considered. I previously commented about the composition of the Commerce and Labor Committee and that there were only 3 of our side that were put on that. Let me say, I am a realist, and I don't ever take what happens up here personally. It is business, and therefore being dispassionate about our approaches, I think, is important. But I was a little disappointed in that regard. I also had expressed my disappointment about the Finance Committee, and I'll remind you about my disappointment. I respect that each caucus has the right of self-determination on how they want to compose the various committees. And you all know that I was very sensitive to geographical distribution as contrasted with seniority. And I shared with you when Senator Wampler, a long-term senator on finance, left, that we put Senator Carrico on day one. I reminded you when the very Honorable Yvonne Miller passed away that on day one we put Kenny Alexander on the Finance Committees so that that part of Virginia would not be disenfranchised. I further remind you that when Senator Stosh retired, that out of geographical consideration and a passing over seniority, Senator Donovan was put on finance. I would further remind you that at my insistence that Senator Barker was brought on to the Finance Committee because I felt that he brought a strength in assets and health and human resources, which was very valuable to the committee, and that did not make everyone on my side happy. And then I further remind you with the retirement of Senator Marsh that Senator Dance was put on the Finance Committee on day one for geographical distribution on the Tri-Cities, but also sensitivity to ethnicity. I observed with some chagrin what went on joint rules on Friday. Dispassionately, I say it was interesting for me to learn what the two representatives of the Joint Committee were going to be by way of a copy of a letter that was sent to me by another member. What really concerns me about the procedure and protocol that as joint rules we as the Senate participate in, there was no public notice. It was not posted. And the rule that they were preparing to adopt had a universal application that thousands of citizens in Virginia would be interested in, yet there was no advance notice. Secondly, there was no advanced agenda. Thirdly, there was no advanced previewing of the rules which were going to be adopted. And probably most egregious of all, that we each ought to be sensitive to, and I didn't hear a great outcry, was this, that Colonel Pike, who is in charge of looking out for the safety and security of all of us in the Capitol, was rolled under the bus. And everybody in this room knows that we have had some other interactions with the Capitol Police, which came from this side of the aisle, which I vociferously objected to that interaction. So I say this out of a sense of fairness. Also, as I was leaving on Friday, I happened to see on the screen the debate taking place on the floor of the House about the adoption of their rules. And you cannot imagine how appalled I was when I heard the debate and then subsequently read in the media that the House of Delegates thought they could adopt a rule in the House that the Senate was going to have to abide by. And they went through some archaic explanation of it. We should not tolerate that. Because one of the things that I have learned in the years that I have been in the Senate is what I disaffectionately refer to as incremental creep. And if they think that they can pass a rule, no matter what the subject is, unilaterally, and that we in the Senate have to adhere to it, in my mind, that is totally, unequivocally unacceptable. I would further say to you that I had concerns this morning as I was sitting in courts, and I want to truly compliment the senator from Roanoke City. We only have 4 new members in the Senate, 2 who have previously served in the House of Delegates that are familiar with the process, familiar with the collegiality, With some of you, this is the 29th year that I have served with, and I have always enjoyed the friendship and the collegiality that we have had. But in courts, one of our members is conspicuously absent today, and he had a trial that he needed to deal with in North Carolina, and he approached the chairman of courts and said, "Can you please carry these gun bills over until Wednesday so that I can participate?" The chairman of courts said yes. And in fact, a docket was prepared that had no gun bills on it on Thursday. On Friday, another docket was posted which had many, many gun bills on it. And I appreciate your candor, and I mean that with great sincerity. You have always been a man of great honor, and I admire it. When asked in courts, the response from the chairman about why the change had taken place was because his caucus had determined that was the way it was to be. I truly respect that those of you on that side have more votes than this side, and it's business to me, and I don't get excited. What I do get excited about is the deviation from an acceptable protocol. And I think as a matter of courtesy that we ought to extend it both ways. It ought to be a bilateral situation. I further observed something else that caused me some concern, and that is I appreciate the rules this House passed. I appreciate the rules that the joint rules passed, and we have to abide by it. What I don't appreciate is my administrative assistant standing out there on the street for 50 minutes to try to get into the Pocahontas building to do her job. And I understand security. I truly understand security. What I don't understand is I don't think that any of the 40 members in this body are privileged. I don't think any of the 100 members down that end of the hall are privileged. And I certainly don't think that anyone in the administration is privileged. There is no reason that my aide should be waiting out there for 50 minutes to get in to do her work, and that members of the administration can bypass the system and go to the front of the line. Absolutely inexcusable. We are here to represent 8.5 million Virginians, and that mutuality of respect should not flow just from the members of this body to one another, but from the administration and its representatives to us. So in closing, I apologize for trespassing on your time. I really don't apologize. I think that the Senate of Virginia needs to continue to be the institution to maintain decorum, to maintain protocol, to maintain procedures, and communicate with one another and the colleagues that we should be. We can disagree on the substance of issues, and I am not talking about any substantive issue here. I just think that we can do better, and we certainly don't want to devolve down to what goes on down the hall.
For purposes of senior senator from Fairfax, Senator Saslaw, rise.
Point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
You know, Mr. President, I listened to what my good friend Senator Norman had to say. I got to tell you all, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit confused. You know, for the last 4 years, you all have told our side you're opposed to sanctuary cities. Now you're in favor of them. For the last 8 years, you all have been pretty willing to impose lopsided committee. Now you're against it. I need you all to make up your mind as to where you all are. And with respect to, you know, areas and regions and who's on what committee, with respect to the Richmond area, I would remind everyone in the room that that area is ably represented on the Senate Finance Committee by Senator McClellan, who I might add was not new to the system here. She had served a few years in the House of Delegates, as opposed to, you know, just being brand new to the whole system. Things come up. We're living in pretty difficult times, let's face it. And some decisions are going to be made and have to be made for a variety of reasons. And I can understand some people may or may not be upset by that. But let me assure you, with respect, you made the remark about throwing Colonel Pike under the bus. Both of our caucuses met with him and Colonel Settle and went over what they would like to see, what they thought was the way to go. So nothing that we did in joint rules should have been a surprise to them, because we had, if my memory serves me correct, we had gone over all of this with them. So, like I said, turnabout's fair play, okay? I mean, and we've tried to, look out for all the regions. I think the 9th Congressional District, I think we have 2 people that represent at least some part of the 9th Congressional District. Northern Virginia has Planning District 8, almost 40% of the state's population, and just about 40% of the Senate Finance Committee. It's not distorted. And you may not be able to match the numbers identically, but we tried to do the best we could. So the bulk of the committees are not too different. They're a little different than what they were before. But, we tried in 2008 to be as fair as we could. And as soon as, the other side got control, Mr. President, they didn't hesitate to formulate a lot of lopsided committees. Now, I understood the politics of it when you all were doing it, and I would hope you all would reciprocate and understand the politics of it when we're doing it. Thank you, Mr. President.
What purpose is Senator from Eastern Fairfax? Senator Surville rise.
Point of personal privilege.
Senator's floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to wade too much into the colloquy between the 2 leaders here. I'll just note a couple footnotes of mine. One that I believe Senator Stanley had at least 3 days' notice after he became aware that the firearm bills were on the docket. I wasn't in the middle of that conversation he had with the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, but he did have some notice. I also just want to point out, I got a text message from Henry Marsh who wanted me to remind everybody of the notice he got before his district got redrawn. But in any event, just kidding. I don't know if Henry has my cell phone number, but on a happier note, or actually not happier note, I hope everybody here had a good weekend. I spent the weekend in a snowy Frisco, Texas. And if everybody's never noticed before, when I mourn, I wear purple. And today I'm wearing purple because of what happened on Saturday. So on behalf of the JMU Duke Caucus, I have a little report to give. For those of you who don't know, that's myself, Senator Hanger, Senator McDougal. We have an honorary member, Senator Obenshane, who kind of, sort of bleeds purple sometimes. Yeah, he pays tuition there, right. But on Saturday, the JMU football team made its 4th appearance in a national championship, the 3rd time in 4 years, with 3 different coaches in the last 4 years, if you can believe that. It was an excellent game, I thought. The Dukes struck first on the board in the first possession. The Bison struck back. But for what I thought was a bogus pass interference call, which resulted in a touchdown and 2 trick plays, any one of those 3 things had occurred differently, we'd be doing a commending resolution later this session. But, the Dukes had won their last 14 games by an average of 30 points. They had an incredible season. North Dakota State, on the other hand, a very worthy rival, now has won 37 straight games. So they also became the first football college team to win 16 games in a season since Yale in 1894 with that victory that just happened. So their quarterback was unstoppable. He ended up winning the National Player of the Year for Division I AA FCS, and he was unstoppable. But I would just like to point out that notwithstanding the fact that Duke's lost, they still rank third in national championships for team championships in Virginia. ODU is still number one. You can believe that. 28 national championships because apparently they get credit for sailing. 15 national championships in sailing. UVA, of course, is 27. I apologize to William and Mary, which only has 2. George Mason only has 2. And Virginia Tech has a lot of individual championships, but not one single national championship, while JMU has 5 now. So maybe one of these days, William and Mary, Virginia Tech, Mason, some of the other guys will join the rest of us up there in the 5 club. But in the meantime, JMU's going to have to settle for 5 national championships. And it was a truly epic weekend. It was an awesome run by their team. And I think if you see anybody wearing purple today, make sure you give them a big hug.
For purposes, Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Sasslaw.
Just a brief personal privilege with respect to William and Mary. I would remind everybody in here, Lou Holtz began his football coaching career at William and Mary. And he said the reason that he left, and this may have something to do with it, he said there were too many Marys and not enough Williams.
Who wants to follow that? For purposes, Senator from Fairfax City, Senator Peterson, rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for 2 announcements.
Senator, has the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, first announcement, tomorrow morning will be our initial Sunrise Caucus meeting. We'll be meeting at 7 a.m. at the Speaker's Conference Room. Myself and Delegate Paul Krizek are the co-chairs. This is a Bible study group that goes back 30-plus years. Some of the original founding members were Delegate Mary Christian, Delegate Vic Thomas, and a lot of other legends of this building. So I invite everyone of any faith, please come and join us. We'll be studying Kings of the Old Testament. I know that has no application to today, but we're studying them anyway. Second announcement. Tomorrow night, VCU Gym, we begin basketball practice. Now, I've been your captain the last 10 years, and it's been a little bit of a dry spell. I have a list of players I need for this year's team. Point guard, shooting guard, swing forward, power forward, center, 6 man or woman, substitutes. If you can fit any of those categories, please come out and play with us. We're going to try and get the whole court at VCU. If you have staff members that want to play, come on out, bring your shoes, and let's have some fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. What purpose is Senator from Hanover? Senator McDougall, rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many say, I had not intended to rise until I heard the comments of the senior senator from Fairfax. And I was harking back to our conversations last week, and I just want to make sure the record is straight as we go forward. Mr. President, we did get a briefing on the Senate Republican side from Colonel Pike on Tuesday. And in that briefing, he articulated that there were no specific threats that they had received. Mr. President, as I heard that, one of the questions that we asked was, were y'all concerned about Virginians coming to the Capitol? And specifically, we were told that no, it are groups from other states, including groups like Antifa, that they were concerned about. Mr. President, I just have to say, as a member of this body for 15 years and the body down the hall for 4, I was very saddened by Friday. Mr. President, to receive a notice that you're a member on the committee by email after business hours, for that committee to meet and the members of this body not express any concern about what the agenda was or the fact that we were being forced to vote on a policy that we had not seen until it was placed in front of us is disappointing. That is action. When I was down the other end of the hall, I understand how that goes. That's how they operate. But that's not how the Senate of Virginia operates. Mr. President, we were all here together. I live not too far away. Most of y'all were in here on Monday and Tuesday. Certainly we were in this body on Wednesday and Thursday. It could have been done differently. Not that the outcome would have been different, but there is a courteous nature to how we present legislation and go forward. And Mr. President, it's not just about courtesy to us. It's a courtesy to our constituents, Virginians. For them not to be aware of those meetings, not to be able to come and express their views, that's just disappointing. Just disappointing for this body. And Mr. President, as I came in this morning and I saw the line, and my staff, I think Senator from James City, his did a little bit better than mine. My secretary was not able to get into the building. It took her over an hour. Virginians look at that and they say, we're paying for your staff to stand out on the sidewalk for an hour before they can come in. But Mr. President, the one other thing that really concerned me about today was in the courts committee, we took up a bill that was not even on the docket. Not been posted for citizens to see, not posted for members to see. Mr. President, as we go forward, Virginians expect better from us. I expect better from us. The votes will be what the votes will be. The ability to push legislation forward in the direction is clearly the rule of 21. But how that is done is important for Virginians to know that even if they are in the minority and even if they disagree, they have the ability to have their thoughts heard, to have their legislators heard. Because, Mr. President, I've heard a lot about Fairfax and how many people live in Fairfax. And there are a lot of great people that live in Fairfax. Great business owners, great individuals. But the Commonwealth of Virginia includes more than Fairfax County. And Mr. President, my district, when it was created by my friends across the aisle, had the same number of citizens in it as each of yours. Those individuals deserve, whether you like the ideas that we have or not, to have their members to be able to review legislation, be able to know it's actually going to be on the docket, and vote on it. So, Mr. President, I am sad for this body. Sad in the way that we've conducted ourselves. But, Mr. President, there's the opportunity for us to do more. There's the opportunity for us to be transparent, and there's an opportunity to make sure that all Virginians have the ability to have their thoughts and views heard, whether you agree with them or not.
For what purpose, the Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howell rise.
Mr. President, for a brief personal privilege.
The Senator has the floor.
You know, we don't all know what the threats are that come against members here in the Senate and in the House. I can assure you that there were specific threats against some of our leadership here in the Senate and in the House. And local police was involved, Capitol Police was involved, state police was involved. It was of great seriousness. So before you decide that you don't want to keep the public safe here when they come in to the Capitol, when some of the people who have been threatened are doing their duty, I'd think about it for a little while. Thank you, Mr. President.
For what purpose is the Senator from Western Fairfax, Senator Marsden rise.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for a announcement.
Thanks, Senator. You have the floor.
Mr. President, there is another threat that's coming up this year, and that is Real ID, October 1, 2020. As you know, Real ID is required if you're going to get on an airplane. It's going to be required if you want to get onto a military base or a federal building. If you don't, you're going to have your birth certificate with you to get in, but you will not be able to fly. And we started in October 1 of 2018, and they've issued just over 1 million, about 1 million 20,000, and we have 2 million to go. And I have a calculator on my magic phone here, and I divided the number of days left, which is 232, into 2 million, and it comes up with 8,600 real IDs a day from here until October 1st. Folks, the business we're in, as well as being legislators, is communicators. We have got to get this word out to our constituents, to our friends all over, whether it's by Twitter, by Facebook, by your email list. Certainly, the administration has assured me that they're getting out and making sure that the word is going to get out, and you'll see a lot more advertising around this issue. But you know what's going to happen. On October 1, one of your constituents is going to be turned down in an airport, and they're going to go, I never heard anything about this. Well, it's our obligation to make sure that we do everything we can to let folks know. And later on this month, there will be some folks coming in to set up a kiosk here to do some DMV and Real ID services. Get out there, get it done. Let's do right by Virginians and get the word out. And at the end of the day, it's going to be on them. But our job is to communicate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase, rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to rise for the purpose of a personal privilege, please.
Senator has the floor.
In response to some of the comments made from the senator from Northern Fairfax County, I can actually identify with a threat that I had outside of Meriwether's Cafe whenever I had two rather irate, I guess, constituents. They might have been from the north, I'm not sure where they are, but tried to lay hands on me and hurt me until they looked down and saw my revolver strapped to my hip. And I would argue that that day, by my open carrying in the Capitol, where our police, our Capitol Police, do the best job they can given the resources, the limited resources we give them. They cannot be everywhere at one time. While I would argue this is an issue for every member, the other side likes to talk about being for women. And I think this is a great opportunity for the other side to show that they are for women. They like to talk about the so-called Equal Rights Amendment. And I would argue that the Second Amendment is the most, the best way to show women that we care for them to be able to protect themselves and allow all law-abiding citizens the ability to protect themselves while they're here at the Capitol. Thank you, Mr. President.
For what purpose is the senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove, rise?
For a very brief personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate, Senator Norment and others had mentioned the difficulty of our staff getting into the Pocahontas building and here as well. You know, when I was a naval officer, we always made sure that our enlisted were fed before we ate. We made sure that our enlisted were housed before we went to the BOQ. All right, these employees need to be in these offices because all of us here, everyone, would fail miserably if we didn't have them there. So I am just asking for the Senate rules or whoever can make that decision to allow our staff to come in through Bank Street and not have to basically stand in the lines. They were bad today. You know how bad they're going to be next Monday. So please, for our employees, please let them have that access. Thank you.
Okay. Do any other senators wish to be recognized? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements.
Today, Monday, January 13th, the Committee on Commerce and Labor will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A, Pocahontas. The Commerce and Labor Subcommittee on Energy will meet immediately upon adjournment of the Committee on Commerce and Labor, Senate Room A, Pocahontas. Senators Spruill, Norman, Newman, Lucas, and Marsden. The Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Human Resources will meet at 4 p.m. Subcommittee Room 1, Pocahontas. Senators Howe, Hanger, Vogel, Barker, Deeds, Eben, and McClellan. The Northern Virginia delegation will meet at 5 p.m. in the Senate Leadership Conference Room, 6th floor, Pocahontas. Tuesday, January 14th, the Finance and Appropriations Subcommittee on Economic Development and Natural Resources will meet at 7:30 a.m., Subcommittee Room 1, Pocahontas. Senators Marsden, Ruff, Howe, Saslaw, Hanger, and Barker. The General Government Subcommittee of Senate Finance and Appropriations will meet at 7:30 a.m., Senate Leadership Conference Room in Pocahontas. Senators Peterson, Newman, Lucas, Vogel, Locke, and Eben. The Education and Health Subcommittee on Health Professions will meet at 8:30 a.m., Subcommittee Room 2 in Pocahontas. Senators Barker, Saslaw, Newman, Edwards, Donovan, Lewis, and Suderline. The Committee on Finance and Appropriations will meet at 9 a.m., Committee Room B in Pocahontas. There will be a budget briefing at this meeting, and all senators are encouraged to attend. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m., Senate Room 1, Capitol. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2 in the Capitol.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Call on the senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate do now adjourn until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow.